'Twas the night before Christmas when all through Volskaya not a hero was shooting, not even a Zarya. The loot boxes were ready, locked with a bow, tucked away in their homes scattered across King's Row. The hardcore gamers had just shut their games down from losing a game or rage quitting with a frown. Each player went to bed, bronze to grandmaster, hoping Pachimari merch would arrive just a bit faster. When in the launcher, the client began to patch. Winter Wonderland has returned, but with a new match. Freeze, shoot, and trap are the only means to fight. But if the Yeti goes red, you must leave his sight. The event is short, so you can unleash the beast, play as the Yeti, and you'll enjoy quite the feast. Oh no! You've been trapped, frozen and shot by May. Will you be the hunter or the hunted today? Welcome to Omnic Lab, everyone!
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I tried to edit this down a little bit. This is a really long poem I put together for y'all. Even worked pretty hard in the prose. But my name's Rob. Welcome to Omnic Lab, episode 83 of the Omnic Lab. We are an Overwatch podcast touching on strategy and memes occasionally. This week, we're going to be talking about ladder climbing. And joining me all the way from Shiny, Georgia, a little less balmy than normal, is Andres Gomez. What's up, Andres?
What's up? What's up? Yeah. I'm super excited to be here. We have a special episode for you guys. We are bringing you a little ladder guide for Christmas. Merry Christmas! I know that there's a lot of you out there who just got Overwatch, or we had a lot of you new entrants as well with all this like promotions and the Overwatch League starting, some returning players as well. So we thought it was a good time, to revisit some good concepts. We brought a very special friend today too, our good friend Appa. What's up, man?
Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a minute since I've been on podcasts with either of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appa is it's crossing over from Hearthstone into Overwatch, so he's a perfect example of kind of like the kind of person we're trying to cater this episode to. People who recently joined Overwatch, who try to climb the ladder, and who need a little bit of a boost, strategy boost.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
I guess kind of an intro for me, so you know who I am, not just some
Tell us
complete
a little bit
random.
about yourself. Yeah.
So for the past year and a half, pretty much, I've been playing Hearthstone professionally. And I've gotten to Overwatch because last Christmas my brother was really into Overwatch and he bought me the game when it was on sale. And I played it for a month and a half or so. But I never took it really seriously, and I really had to stop playing because I got signed to a team in Hearthstone, and I had to focus on that game pretty much exclusively. But I've kind of stopped playing Hearthstone competitively as much. I still play it, but I really started getting back into Overwatch about 2 months ago, and I didn't really take it too seriously until I went to BlizzCon, and then I went to the World Cup.
The World Cup? Oh, yeah.
Watching those matches, I was just like, man.
That'll convert anyone.
This is amazing. I used to play Halo 3 at a really high level whenever I was in middle school. So that's my first-person shooter experience. And I missed that high-octane competition. And just watching the World Cup, I was like, man, I want this again. So this past season, I've really been working on just improving. trying to climb the ladder a little bit, improve myself. My goal is to be Masters by the end of next season. And I'm Diamond right now. I got there from Silver, so
Getting close. Yeah. You started at Silver and you're all the way in Diamond right now. Nice. Yeah. So you've done quite the climb.
I think this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do, because usually we pick up, folks that are, GM and top 500 or pro players or even just high Masters players that Andres happens to know. But I think it's going to be valuable to the majority of you, because with having GM folks in here, it helps those of you who are in Masters and in Diamond that are going to get that next little bit of mileage. And in this way, we want to maybe go closer to the typical model of the players. So this may not be as typical, as far-reaching as some of you upper-tier players out there looking to succeed. But knowing our audience and knowing that 10% of Overwatch players aren't there, this is probably going to be a little bit more relevant.
There. Yeah,
10% of the Overwatch player base has not even hit Diamond. I'm sorry, 10% of the player base is Diamond and above.
Yeah,
sorry,
there you go.
So bringing Appa here is going to help. Hopefully, those of you that are stuck in bronze, silver, gold range. I know that frequently I am struggling in the mid platinum range. I've plateaued quite heavily, and I attribute a lot of that not to regular play and playing a game called Destiny that really rips asunder your muscle memory, as Andres and I have both experienced together. It's a lot of fun to play casually, but if you tend to play it a little bit more regularly than you play your Overwatch, then you tend to actually lose quite a bit of your internal memory of
that is true.
How you play the game and how to approach gameplay, even not just like muscle memory. There's a lot more deep integration things that end up breaking down slowly when you change the way a game feels and movement at its core. But let's start with some news, and then we'll get into kind of the main topic here. So just a quick note is our game night has officially been announced, and it is the 29th. Now, what does that mean? For those of you that are new to the show, the 29th just means that's the date that we set. It does mean an evening, quote unquote, but we know that we have broad representation across EU and Australia, and obviously because I'm in Japan, it's going to be a little bit different. So basically, it's just when you can come. It'll probably start sometime around noon, and it'll just go until everyone quits. So we just keep going. It doesn't mean that Andres and I are necessarily going to be there for the entirety of it. I know that there's a few whispers of some of the folks saying that they're going to try to do something today, which is the 22nd, in the evening, but no promises as to when they're going to do those and if it's just going to be community run. But Andres and I will be there for the 29th for sure. The next thing here is we have the Omnic Meta as our official official partner, of the show. SwitchFox is putting together some great data over there and has not done any new updates because of the holiday season. But if you want to get the most recent thing is still that console report that we promoted last week. Please go check him out and support him on Patreon as well. And the Overwatch League, or Owl recap, that Andres and Bob and Aid Mero have put together is now on its own separate feed, and I put a link for it in the show notes for you. And I've also made sure to link Aid Mero's Twitter. Aid Mero was the gentleman named Justin on the show, and also was the one who housed Andres and I at BlizzCon. And it is basically a lot of the talks between those two and Bob has kind of spawned this idea after and before the World Cup matches that we ended up watching together.
Yeah. Make sure to go check it out. If you guys are interested in the Overwatch League and want to stay up to date with news, matches, results, all this stuff, we'll be covering all of that in the Overwatch League recap. It has its own home right now, so you can find it on iTunes or Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts, like any podcasting app that you want. Soon to be on Spotify as well. We have its own website. You can just type in owlrecap.com. You'll find it. So all of it is there. If you guys are interested in following that, make sure you do, because we'll be going really strong, especially once the season starts. Right now we have a couple of interviews with some really interesting people, including LA Valiant, Numlocked, and their coach Cuddles. And we'll be releasing some cool interviews with Philadelphia's host, Coach Elliot Hayes, as well as a bunch of other stuff we have planned. So make sure you catch all that.
It's a very different style of fast-paced updates and questionnaires, high-octane type content. So it's not your typical Andres and Rob around the hearth talking about strategy for an hour and a half.
The high-octane Twitter content. I like it.
High-octane podcasting. Hold on to your socks, boys.
No memes allowed. All right, well, let's get into the last little bit here of news. We have Sombra and Bastion actually had a toast that hit a lot of the feeds for their marketing campaign and mysteriously didn't show up in the game's loot boxes. So we have a post here on the blue post from the forums from Josh Engen, who was wanting to basically let you all know that they have not put them in the loot boxes, but they will be giving them both to all players. And there's a blue post if you want to read that. That's there, but that's the gist of it. Furthermore, PTR got another update from the Capmeister himself, Jeff Kaplan, telling us that there are some PTR changes heading into the PTR that are not patching in. They're just there. But basically, the heroes are now moving and accelerating at a different rate. And I'm just going to read this verbatim because it's short. This was originally done for fixing bugs on a couple heroes, but the changes are systematic and affect all heroes. Specifically, movement on the ground is more consistent. Going up and down in inclines will no longer affect your hero's speed. Previously, inclines could either make you move slightly faster or slightly slower, depending on the circumstances. Inclines will now also no longer cause a small amount of strafing movement when you move diagonally on them. A side effect of these changes is that characters will now have slightly better air control. For example, Winston previously was not able to easily make small adjustments in flight path during his jump pack leap. But now he should also be able to do that, and it is noticeable on many other heroes that are often in the air.
Interesting.
We think these changes are overall going to be improvements, and there might be some more unintended side effects that we'd love your help finding on the PTR.
I think that it's interesting that they say that you'll have more air movement as Winston, because to be completely honest, I feel like you have a lot of control as Winston when you're in the air. At least if you compare it to like other games, I guess if you like play Destiny, you have like no air control once you're like jumping. But with Winston, you kind of like, you can like make turns mid-air. You know what I mean? Like you can go around the corner as you're jumping in. So I'm interested to see how much more control are they giving you. And also interesting about the inclines. I wonder if they mean kind of like those rooftops inclines. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you slide off of a rooftop, sometimes you gain like a little bit of speed.
They mean more about the ramps and the staircases.
Okay, gotcha.
And like rocks that you can climb and boxes that have an incline on them or something like that. Appa, why don't you weigh in here? What do you think about this?
I'm just excited to get on the PTR and watch Junkrats and Winston just like scoot around in the air.
Yeah, like are you gonna like AD strafe in the air? Like what is more control? I want to know.
You kind of took a little bit of what I wanted to talk about, which is the Junkrat thing, because he has the double jump capability. I wonder how much that affects your movement, like how far you can move laterally, not just vertically with the movement changes, and this could make Pharah even harder for people to shoot in lower tiers, which may bring her as like I also really am curious as to how this affects console play, if that's true. You know what I mean? Like there's so many like layers to this of the onion that you kind of have to pull back and like look through, because literally any hero that is falling off of high ground, this affects. And any hero that's making any sort of momentum movement change, like fade jumping with Moira, for example, I can't imagine what that control is going to look like when you go high ground fade jump. When you have mercy movements, like can you glide farther? Can you move laterally while you're doing your stuff? How does this affect the speed of Valkyrie? And you know, there's like I said, there's so many different things here. Even just getting booped by Lucio and then reacting to that to get back onto the map. Is it going to be harder to boot people off? I don't know. But these are things that are just running through my mind for this kind of a change, and things that are definitely worth getting onto the PTR before we get onto the live servers and let Blizzard know if something's broken.
Yeah, I love how the Overwatch team kind of approaches like making changes. It's like they'll just make blue posts and they'll be like, "Look, we made changes. We probably screwed something up. Help us find it, please."
It also helps when they follow up with
yeah.
that and do something on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. There was another blue post this week that's about Hanzo wanting to play only that hero, and we got a little bit more confirmation from One Tricks, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because I feel like that's something we've gone down every week. So what I'd like to do is, if we have time at the end of the show, we'll revisit this. But for now, let's get into the main content. We've spent a good chunk of time on this here news, so let's get into it. I'm going to kick it over to Andres and how he had kind of like a little bit of a vision for this going into it. And then we'll start kicking questions to you, Appa.
All right.
Sounds good. All right. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is kind of like going back to the basics of Overwatch, especially for people who are coming into the game. I think that it's easy to be misled. Like you see all these cool heroes that can do all this cool stuff, you know, and like we've experienced games like Quake, for example, where you're basically just running all over the map, just killing people regardless, you know, just trying to rack up kills as much as you can. And you've also played games like Call of Duty where, you know, deathmatch is a big part in that game. And people are used to kind of like just going in, killing, and that's kind of like their main objective. But Overwatch is this interesting hybrid, and we were talking about it with Appa and Rob before the show started, where it's disguised as a first-person shooter, but at the heart of it, Overwatch is a MOBA, and it has to be played kind of like as that hybrid, leaning more towards the MOBA side. I feel like the strategy part of Overwatch is very MOBA-ish, and then the execution side, you know, the mechanical part, the shooting and all that stuff, resembles more of the FPS. What do you think about this when you were starting the game, Appa? Because you were doing that transition, and I'm guessing that at one point it had to click in your head like, oh man, because you're also a MOBA player, right? You used to play League?
Yeah, I used to play a little bit of League, like not very seriously, but I do have like some experience at it. I had a little bit of a shortcut in like figuring a lot of this stuff out because my best friend, I'll probably reference him a couple times, but he's a high master, like low GM support main. And after the World Cup, I was like, look, I want to get good at Overwatch. Can you help? So he's basically been giving me free coaching. Like I play with him all the time. He was like, all right, look, we used to play League. Overwatch is basically League of Legends if all the characters are full build and team fighting all the time. So that just like clicked with me instantly. I was like, oh, okay. This makes a lot more sense for like my positioning and stuff, because I used to play supports in League, and it helped with my positioning, like standing behind the big dudes and like not getting in the front. It's like stand by your tanks.
Absolutely. So I think that for newer people coming in, the people who have a background in MOBAs, like you said, like once it clicks, like, oh, I need to be playing this kind of like I play League or Dota or Heroes of the Storm. The positioning is very similar. Yeah, you want your frontline dudes, the big dudes, to kind of like be opening up the fights, initiating, being the ones grabbing the attention of the enemy team. Then you have kind of like your damage dealers that help put that pressure that your tanks are putting forward. You also have flankers or assassins or whatever you want to call them that are good at like getting behind enemy lines and helping from the pressure from a different point. And then you got your precious support, everybody's favorite in a MOBA, the guys that keep you alive and keep the fight going. But you have to really keep that in mind, that like you need that team dynamic, and that formation is not a solo game. There's no point in you being by yourself doing something. It's kind of like when you're playing a MOBA, it's very intuitive or obvious. If you're in enemy lines by yourself and you don't know where the enemy team is, for example, you can't see them on the minimap, that's a huge red flag, right? Like it's like, why are you so out of position right now? You were probably gonna die. In Overwatch is like kind of like same principles, you know what I mean? You need to be aware where the enemy team is, you need to be aware where your team is, and then you need to be aware where you fit in like that whole interaction, in that whole fight.
Yeah, a lot of people around like my MMR on ladder, like in my SR like rank, I'll see them kind of take habits from other shooters like CS:GO or Call of Duty or something. And a lot of it is DPS players, I think, because they have a gun. They're like, okay, this is a first person shooter, and like I'll just use King's Row as an example or something. It's like if we lost a fight and there's like 4 of them on the point and we're all like having long spawn and like this, or like we're all respawning and the soldier's like running in. It's like, bro, what are you doing? There's 4 people. You're gonna die. He's like, no, I can get him. It's like, all right. First of all, this is not that serious. Second of all, you're going to give them all ult charge, and then we're going to be at a huge disadvantage in ult economy. So, like, just don't worry about it. Just back up. It's okay.
Yeah, and like for MOBA players, that's obvious, right? Like if you're in a team fight and your team loses 3 out of 5 players or 4 out of 5 players, that remaining 1 player or 2 players, they usually just back away. Like, teleport back to spawn, you know what I mean? Heal up in the fountain, regroup with their team, get the hell out of there, kind of thing. In Overwatch, that's not as intuitive, right? Because it's not as obviously punishing. Like in the MOBA, you're giving the other team a bunch of experience. You're getting killed for a significant amount of time. Like everybody hates dying in those games because you're out of the loop for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds, sometimes a minute if it's like late into the game. So it's like a huge punishment that you feel it right away. But with Overwatch, it's like, I'll just die and I'll respawn with my team, 6 seconds after. But it's a small, like, little mentality that it's really detrimental, especially to newer players. Because in Overwatch, it does cost you a lot to die, especially to die alone away from your team. It costs you in the sense of time, for not only for yourself but for your team. Those 6 seconds that you have to wait to respawn is not only the 6 seconds, but it's also plus all the time that it takes you to regroup, where your team itself can't act on anything because they might have to wait on you to have like full force to be able to challenge the enemy team. So you're costing your team a ton of time. And also what you said, you're costing ult economy. You're losing the ult economy battle of your team. You're giving the enemy team more charge while probably not gaining very much charge yourself. Because you have to think about, if you're dealing damage to the opposing tanks to gain a little bit of ultimate, you're also giving their healers ultimate charge. And you're giving their damage dealers and tanks charge by damaging you. So it's like a lose-lose situation. And in a team game like this, there's usually no place for solo plays in general, unless you're like Sinatra or something like that.
Yeah, that's like one of the big things I see is like you'll have the DPS try and like 1v4. It's like you can do that in other shooters, and like that's a bad habit to break. It's like you can do that in Call of Duty and CS:GO sometimes, but like you're just not really going to do that in Overwatch like frequently at all, unless they're all like 1 health. But that's very unlikely.
So let's try to, now that we've made that connection, let's try to push it into more of what we've learned in Overwatch to not make the transition, but rather how we are improving. So let's start with basics. So Appa, what are the things when you were in silver that you were like, okay, this is what I'm doing, and then as you progress to gold, like the things that are different on this scale that I'm looking for are more of like, what are the slow pieces that you slowly learned, and then what are the things that are like, aha moments that you just like physically, mentally, or in practice, like habitually are just like, this has got to go and it's going now. Like the ability to flip the switch on and off with those type of things versus like learned habits. You know what I mean?
I guess like learned habits. Since I play supports, like it's less of a mechanical game for me, and it's more like positional based. And like that was kind of the biggest thing for me is like I screw up my positioning like even now, just like constantly, and like that's still something I'm working on. Like even from silver, like it just improves. Like the better you get, it's like, okay, I was here, I died to this Genji, I probably made a mistake somewhere. Probably should have been like near somebody else who could have like helped get the Genji off of me, or maybe I was like playing the wrong support like against their team or something. I guess for like flipping the switch is like alt economy was like a real big thing that I learned, and it's just kind of stuck with me. Um, there's a bullet here. It's like self-imposed rules, and like one of my biggest self-imposed rules, like basically since silver, is like if you've already clearly lost a fight, just don't invest your ult like trying to swing it back in your favor. You can just use it for like your next take on a point, or like stopping them before they push the payload. It's like you can just hold on to it. You don't have to use it all the time, you know? That was like one of the bigger things that kind of just like clicked for me. It's like, hey, just hold on to the ult. It's okay.
And I think that's a good advice, and you hear a lot that don't die in Overwatch. Be cautious with your life, but I think that comes with a caveat in there. It's like, yes, don't die, but why? Like, really know why you shouldn't die. And like, the reason people tell you that is because they don't want you to get staggered. They don't want your team to get like staggered for a long period of time where you're constantly streaming in one by one, not acting as a team and stuff. But the concept of don't die is just basically that. Actually, I would want to rephrase the don't die concept to either don't die or die soon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because they're both kind of like interchangeable, and is the reason why you sometimes see pros after a team fight just throw themselves out into the abyss. Like you'll see like a diva who just lost their mech and they maybe even won the team fight, but you'll still see them throw themselves into the precipice to respawn with their mech because they know it's faster and consumes less time to do that. It's basically a race against the clock in every one of your games. And the faster you can reassemble with your team, the faster you can have big team fights that are proactive, you know, with your entire team there, not just you trying to get 4 kills so you can give an advantage to your team. The more chances your team has of winning that round. So it's just keeping this in mind. When you engage as a team, if 3 people die immediately and you're kind of caught in the line of fire, like it's gonna be very hard for you to like get out of there alive, or you're gonna have to do like a huge loop around the map to be alive. You might as well just throw yourself into the enemy team or throw yourself off a cliff and then regroup with your team really fast, kind of thing. And it's something that a lot of newer players don't keep in mind. You're racing as a clock. The faster you can regroup, the better.
Yeah, that's kind of something I take for granted too. It's kind of just second nature at this point. It's like, don't get staggered. Like if my team's not there, like I'm not going in. I'm just gonna sit behind the wall and wait for them.
Yeah.
It's like either don't die or die with everybody else.
Now, another thing that I really want to highlight over here, and this is not just newer players. Actually, this is seasoned players as well. But like I guess it's like an overconfidence, or they like a boredom act. I don't know what it is, but it's like this compulsiveness of always having to shoot at the enemy team. And even when part of your team is dead, and you will tell them, don't engage, or hey, don't peek, back up. They'll take as the don't peek or don't show yourself as, hey, I can be really far away and shoot at the enemy team, and I'll be okay. And the majority of the time, this is a mistake that I see a lot of people do. When your team is dead, the best thing you can do is, if you're a tracer, hide in a place where they can never see you. But for most of the other people that have low mobility, it's back all the way down, like to spawn, you know what I mean? Like go wait for your team at the door. If you can, just wait for them inside the spawn, you know what I mean? Because that is like guaranteeing that you will come out with them. And is not as important in the lower levels, although if you get a habit of doing this, trust me, you'll do well. But at the higher levels, better players will understand that as soon as they win the team fight, it's cleanup phase, and they will hunt you down. They will hunt down that Zenyatta that is shooting at them from a distance. Winston will jump on you. Genji will jump on you. Tracer will come and search for you. Even their Lucio will speed boost, and they will chase you close to your spawn and kill you and clean you up. And then guess what? You'll be staggered.
Yeah,
Widowmaker will shoot you.
that was actually a problem I ran into in gold a lot. I played a bit of DPS like while I was in gold, just because I was trying to figure out like what I wanted to play in Overwatch before I like eventually settled on sports. But whenever I learned like don't stagger, like don't peek, don't give them free ult charge, I would just like sit behind a wall, and then my team would be like, "What are you doing, you idiot? Shoot at them!" And I'm like, "Okay, hold on, I'm not gonna shoot at them because one, I could randomly die, I could get like picked somehow. Two, if I shoot at them and I get some ult charge, it's not worth me shooting at them also getting ult charge, and then giving their healer ult charge also. So I'm just gonna sit behind this wall and just not peek and just wait for the team." And I got yelled at like quite frequently in gold for doing that, just like sitting behind a wall and just not doing anything. It's like,
dude,
just
like,
chill out, everybody.
I know it seems so counterintuitive, but sometimes sitting behind the wall and not doing anything and not giving away your position is the right thing to do. The thing you have to be thinking about is at all times you have to be playing for your team. This is not how many people can you frag out or how many picks can you get by the time your team gets back. It's like, no, especially if you're somebody like Zen, for example. And you'll see this happen all the time, for example, on Temple of Anubis, on point B. You know how there's like that huge structure that the attacking team usually waits outside, is like the choke point, like that pyramid. And usually the attacking team waits outside before they go in. And I see this constantly happening where the attacking team gets wiped. There are like 2 people alive, and they just wait outside the pyramid. And that is like the most vulnerable spot in the world. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just wait for our team that whose spawn is like all the way on the other side of this choke. We'll just wait for them outside this pyramid. And any competent team is just like, hey guys, there's like 2 enemies standing around the pyramid. Let's just go kill them. And they get staggered like so constantly in that map.
Now, there's something that kind of came up with this topic that I want to maybe touch on a little bit, which is the overemphasis on being on the objective within fights in lower tiers, because I get this question so frequently in emails or Discord recommendations or hero guide questions where they're just like, to give you an example, if somebody's playing, you know, Mercy or Hanzo or Widowmaker or even just like Bastion and Soldier, a lot of the times they will get blamed for being the player that loses the game or loses the fight because they're not on the objective. And it's like, I'm playing Widowmaker. If I am on the objective, I am either dead, everyone else is dead and I'm capping, or I'm losing us the game because I'm on the objective.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if you want to comment any further on this, Appa, like if you have any more like things here, but it's just like there's just too many things to count where people are like yelling at the tracer or the DPS that are just like off payload or off card or, you know, off point that are hunting things down. Because the amount of Overwatch League games that I watch where people are like capping the point, get it really, really close, and then they just plant tracer there and everyone leaves. And then tracer caps the point and double blanks off and no one's on the point because it's ticking up.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually something that I go through. Well, I went through a lot in like silver and gold, and even like up to like mid plat or so. Was on King of the Hill maps, we would cap the objective, and then everybody just really wanted to sit there and protect their objective. They're like, nobody can get here. This is mine. This is my hill. Can't get on it. It's like if you cap the hill, like move out, like set up, make sure the team like can't even leave their spawn. Like be aggressive with them instead of just like sitting on the hill that we've already capped. Like we're not doing anything there. We're just sitting there. Like we've already got it. We're not getting any extra points for sitting here. Let's like spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
Crack out the marshmallows. Let's build a campfire. It's a party.
And I think that kind of comes with a couple of things, right? Like part of it is people autopiloting, right? Like, oh, we got the objective. I'm not thinking ahead of the game. I'm not thinking of what I should be doing. I'm just kind of like following the motions kind of thing. Another part of it could be just like sorry. lack of knowledge, right? They just might not understand that part of that phase of the match. Like they don't know what they should be doing next in their role. Or the other one, they're just, trolling or something. But for whatever the reason, I think that it's like just a little misunderstanding there. And the way I see Overwatch and the way I guide myself in the game to kind of like always know what I should be doing is look at what the objective at hand is. Look at your team and try to envision how that composition would achieve that goal. It usually starts spearheaded by the tanks. Like you really need to look at your team. I look at it in the as a concept of how you form your team, and I look at the tanks first. Who are you playing with, and what is the terrain? Right? Is it a map like Numbani, or is it a map like Route 66? Right? Like slightly different terrain, and tanks are gonna be able to interact slightly different. Like in Numbani, you're trying to capture a static point that is surrounded by high ground. On Route 66, you're trying to carry a payload through kind of like a valley. Yeah, that's kind of like surrounded by some high ground on the sides. So it's slightly different. But like, think about your tanks. Who are they? Are they a D.Va? Are they a Winston? Are they a Reinhardt? What can they bring to that point? And then after you think about that, then like think about what is going to support those tanks. Can the healers keep up with those tanks? Like, for example, there's no point in taking a Zen if none of them are going to stick with him. Like, if you're going to take like a huge flanking team that is going to do all these leaps, Zen might not be like the best idea. Or Anna, for example. But maybe like a Lucio works really well because he can stay with them, he can flank with them, he can do all these things. So just think about like if the healers make sense for the tanks that you're going to use. And then what DPS are you going to use? Because you're going to have to use the DPS to support whatever your objective those tanks are going to try to achieve. And usually if you think about it this way, it kind of gives you like a roadmap. Because then once you're in the fight, you think about it, okay, I need to help my tanks move into this section of the map. Or my tanks hopefully can help place this Widowmaker in this section of the map so she can damage, and then kind of like keep pushing from here. But try to envision how like the fight should be going in terms of your team. What do you guys think of this?
Well, I wanted to kind of go back a little bit, where you're saying, you're talking about like making little mistakes during fights. I think that it really helps to kind of your improvement to kind of focus on one little thing at a time, because this is like the same thing in Hearthstone. Is like the difference between like rank 5 and legend. I always say when I'm coaching people is like just tiny mistakes that you can fix. Like you focus on one at a time, and you're going to see yourself improve like very rapidly. I think the difference between skill tiers, like say silver and gold, is just like maybe like 4 or 5 tiny mistakes you're making like during each fight that like really start to add up over the course of a match. And like if you focus on one of those and like start knocking them off like off the checklist, you really will see yourself start to improve pretty quickly. Like I still make a ton of mistakes. That's why I'm only diamond. Like I'm not master. And like master tier players make more mistakes than grandmasters. And GMs on average will make more mistakes than top 500 players. It's like nobody's perfect and everybody makes mistakes. It's just kind of trying to recognize them and really focus on them and like try and improve yourself and like cut out bad habits and focus on each one at a time. And once you start like knocking them off and like you stop making those mistakes, you're going to start to improve a lot. And then one other thing that I kind of just forgot to talk about, it's kind of segued out of not staggering. I play a ton of Lucio and Zenyatta, and on Lucio, if like you're like one of the only ones alive and like your team's respawning, go taxi them. Like get your speed boost on and run to spawn, and then like wait for everybody to come out of spawn and like run with them with the speed boost back to the point, because it saves a lot of time over the course of a match. It gets them there a lot faster.
Yeah, and not just with Lucio, like that's just one example, but it's like the idea of if you're playing for your team then it'll occur to you to do things like that one, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're constantly trying to be like, we should be grouped up, we should be trying to engage together. I need the rest of the pieces of my team to be able to win this fight. Then you start doing things like, oh, the Mercy and the McCree's dead. I'm gonna go back with Lucio and pick her up. Or you're a Pharah, for example, and your Mercy's dead. I see a lot of people just go back a little bit with the Pharah so that Mercy can just immediately fly out to you and she's back in the fight that much sooner with you. So like small little details like that can really help you out. Or you're a Reinhardt and you see that two of your teammates are about to go through the choke and you happen to be close to the choke. So just like stepping out, shielding for a second, let him go through unharmed. The enemy team didn't get any ult charge, didn't get any damage. Maybe you block a Helix rocket that was coming through that choke. So like small little thoughts like this of keeping your team in mind at all times can really, really help you improve.
Yeah,
I had a
seem
moment
like
this.
they seem like
sorry, Appa.
really little things, but
They seem trivial.
yeah,
but
over the course of like maybe a play session, like you sit down, play for like 4 or 5 hours, like they all add up like a lot.
yeah.
I was going to say I had a moment like this. We didn't actually end up winning the game, but we definitely had a significant improvement in our overall ability to have a chance, if that makes sense. I'm sure
Mhm.
you guys have probably run into this in a game where you have like, a minute to 2 minutes left to cap the point, and it's really far to move it from one payload point to the next payload point. And I'm playing Ana, and we have like 2 tanks and a pretty durable Reaper. So I'm like, okay, I'm playing Ana. This is a good way to set it up because I've got larger targets. We have a Zenyatta. I'm playing Zenyatta, and we have an Ana that I'm playing with. And I'm like, okay, our Ana should take care of the durable ones, and I'll take care of the other ones and just try to help us frag out a little bit harder. When in reality, our team wasn't really doing that much more advantage. Like they were not taking advantage of my Discord targets, and I was starting to notice a pattern. Because our Roadhog was just perpetually attacking different targets than I was attacking.
Hmm.
And even though I would be trying to get to the same sight lines, he was just always in the opposite sight lines as what I was shooting. So it wasn't even like an issue. You know what I mean? It's just like the objective wasn't moving. And so what I was thinking is, I was like, well, I'm not as good of a player on my Lucio, but in this situation, all my team needs is a little bit of space in each fight just to push people off the cart to have it move a little bit. And what ended up happening was we started winning these mini space battles over the course of fights. And so when somebody like their Diva would come into contest, or their Lucio would come into contest, or something like that, I would just simply use the right click, the shotgun blast with Lucio, and pump them off the payload, and the payload would inch ahead. And so what happened is you'd win these small spacing battles over the course of the event, and then you would get these more durability type moments in fights where with the speed boost, you're garnering flexibility to dodge shots rather than actually needing to heal it at all.
Yeah.
So, I'm weaving the heals and I'm weaving the speed, and I'm starting to see speed as more of avoiding damage and evasion rather than needing to give my teammates a heal. You know what I mean? And so with that capability, you're actually making a Roadhog that is a battery for ult charge and easy to kill for Reapers as being for lack of a better phrase, a fat man with roller skates. Like he's moving faster, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I just wanted to say that because like when you get to a point where everyone's got to contest the payload, you can force people away from it unless they're on Mei and they're sitting on the cart with like a friggin' ice block and they can't move, or an Orisa that has like the ability to just stonewall for every few seconds. She's not in the position where she could really contest. Like Mei's got the best way to contest anything besides divas, right? And even they can be knocked away. So I think that's one big thing that I've been learning this week is how to look at the flexibility of your especially if you're focusing on a role. Like Appa and I actually have the same typical play style. We both play supports. We both like to play all of them and try to know them all well so we can move in and out of them. But we have our specialties with a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so within that, I'd like to transition into hero switching. And Andres touched on this as well a little bit, which was the aspect of how you frame what you want to look for when you do switch. Andres, I think you had the same mindset as I do, which is you almost always look at the tanks to inform the rest of the decisions that the team makes.
Mm-hmm.
Like what tanks you have in the team comp dictate what you actually need to do position-wise in most cases.
Yeah.
And how you actually want to dictate playing the match in forming a strategy. It's less about the team comp and more about what your tanks do so that you can move. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that I try to look at it from a top-down kind of thing, right? I try to look at the objective at hand. What map are we in? And not only the map, but what part of the map, what objective of that map are we in? Because each objective has a different layout. They have different places where people like posting up, where enemy teams like defending or attacking. And heroes tend to shine a little bit different in each of the maps. So I just like looking at the objective at hand and then thinking, okay, what can we expect? Is this a map where we're going to have to deal with DPS shooting at us from the high ground, where we're not going to be able to get to them really easy? If that's the case, you know, Winston or Diva are really good picks because those are tanks that can close the gap with the high ground really easily, pressure those heroes out of there, and hopefully moving out of there so your team can keep advancing and pushing the line forward. If on the other hand, the map is choke point heavy and you're expecting to encounter really big resistance, lots of shields, lots of heavy firepower, you might need something that allows your team to move through that choke point. So either a really mobile comp that doesn't even have to play the choke point at all, or a comp that can shield the rest of your team through that choke point so you can get them to whatever point you're trying to get to. So just think about like the objective in that sense can inform you of like, okay, what tanks I should be using. Sometimes enemy heroes that the enemy team is using can inform you of that decision too. Are they using an Orisa, for example, or are they using a Reinhardt with a Bastion? Are they using Winston and Diva? Is their Diva being a nuisance? Like, is Zarya a good pick so you could get rid of the mech like really fast, for example? All these little decisions. Then once you have the tanks, you can look at the rest. What DPS is going to complement those tank picks? Because I think that sometimes the DPS doesn't think about this very much, but you need DPS that can put pressure on whoever the tank is contesting against. You know what I mean? You can't leave your tanks out in the rain alone. That's why I think sometimes a lot of people give flack to Widowmakers on competitive, because a lot of Widowmakers play the solo game and they'll try to find the flank where they can shoot at the back line, but then suddenly your tanks feel super alone and they feel like they can't move forward because the front line of the enemy team is super strong and there's nobody shooting at them. Just maybe like a little fire from your off tank from Diva that takes for freaking ever to break a shield kind of thing.
That hero
on the
is
other,
so interactive.
on the other hand, if you have a Widowmaker that is not only looking for those shots, but then occasionally is like constantly trying to get headshots on the enemy tanks, is also shooting at their shields, for example, then your tanks are like, okay, this doesn't feel too bad. Barriers are breaking. Occasionally we see a pick from Widowmaker in the back. This is not too bad. It's also why Soldier is sometimes such a great pick too. He's a hero that can put a lot of pressure on the front line quick as long as the Soldier is focusing the right parts. And then of course you got your healers, the people who keep everyone alive. And as long as the tanks are doing their job and the DPS is helping their tanks do their job, healers can usually have a lot of breathing room to keep everyone alive, to check that everyone whose damage needs healing. All right, I got you. As long as, you know, the team is kind of keeping relatively organized around the same areas. One thing that good tanks do really well is engage in the front line, put a lot of pressure, and once they're low, they can back up a little bit, get fully healed, keep rinse and repeat, kind of like keep that pressure until they win a team fight or lose it, whichever. But just like that's the way I think about team composition building, I guess, and when to switch kind of thing. That's the way the guidelines I use.
Yeah. So you were talking there, and like something actually kind of just clicked with me that I need to start working on. Is
Good.
I usually, whenever I'm like picking a support, I'm usually just looking at kind of our team composition, like that's as far as I go. Like I just like on the surface, it's like, all right, we got fat boys and we got a control comp. I'm gonna play Anna here. We got big boys, they need health. And like that's as far as I go. And then like I just play from there. Like I don't really think about the map or like going through a choke really fast. Like maybe I should play Lucio more on like Anubis to like get through the choke faster. And like that just kind of blew my mind because I didn't even like think about that.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah.
terrain
Moira's
is very
so map
important to your
dependent,
decision
too.
making.
Yeah, that's actually a hero that I think about maps on. It's like, is there like an
Yeah.
enclosed space where I can kind of be useful? Then I'll probably play Moira because she feels really strong. But yeah, that's actually really interesting because I would just mostly focus on team comps. Like, do we have like a dive comp? We'll probably play Lucio or Zen to amplify damage or like get in there, keep up with them. Am I playing Overwatch? I'll probably play Mercy. She's incredible.
Valkyrie's good. Valkyrie's good.
Yeah,
All right,
that's really interesting. Learn something new every day.
I wanna talk a little bit too
Go ahead,
about skill tracking and looking for openings, because I really think this is where a big part of the strategy and the funnest part of the strategy, actually the applied strategy, really comes in handy. And that is when you have a good knowledge of the game, you understand your hero and you understand other heroes. You have a very broad knowledge of what all the abilities do, kind of like a general feel for their cooldowns, how long did it take, this sort of thing. Once you've soaked all of that in, you can start playing this game where you can really see the advantages kind of happening live. It's kind of like looking at the Matrix. You start learning how to read the Matrix, and then you see things happening, and like the alerts will go off in your brain. Like I was reviewing a Patreon VOD the other day, and he was playing Winston, and something that I take for granted now when I'm playing Winston is if I see a Genji, I know how to counter him really well, and I've gotten really good at keeping up with the Genjis. And one of the things that I look out for is their dash. The second I see their dash, you see this orange line is very, very noticeable once you are looking for it.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah, it's kind of like you know when Widowmaker fires a shot and you can see the trace of the bullet.
Yeah,
And if you're paying attention, you can see exactly where it came from, and now you know where Widowmaker is. It's the same with the dash. It leaves a trace that if you're looking for it, you will see it's like an arrow. It's like a huge arrow pointing at Genji. Like here, this is where he is.
Zap me.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
fight this man right now.
Yeah, and like as
Fight
Winston,
me.
when I'm playing Winston, I use this as a cue. And if I see that Genji dash anywhere in my range or vicinity, I know that that is my chance right there. Their dash is down, and if he hasn't gotten a kill or if he's looking for a kill, I need to stop this Genji before he can reset his dash and get the hell out of there. So if he's dashing my Zenyatta, my Anna, whoever it is, sometimes like in lower elos, like in the VOD that I was watching, this Genji just straight up dash into the enemy team through the Winston, like complete disrespect. You know what I mean? and in the VOD, the Winston is in front of the enemy team already. So like what catches his attention is the huge Reinhardt that is in front of him. And as a tank, like you're thinking, I'm a tank. I need to be in the front line, keeping their front line away. But in actual application, you should be turning around to deal with that Genji immediately. And as soon as you see a dash, you turn, you jump, and that Genji has no business doing there anymore. Like you will erase him. You'll hit him with the dash, or I mean with your jump and your sap, and probably your team will damage him too. So he'll get destroyed. Well, sometimes in other situations, the Genji might kill your Zenyatta and then get the hell out of there, and you couldn't do anything about it, right? And the truth is that the Reinhardt in the front line is probably gonna do less damage than that Genji in your back line is doing at the moment. So just kind of like priorities there. And there's a ton of examples like this that we can talk about, but it's about like looking for those openings, looking when heroes are at their most vulnerable, right? Like Zarya's shield is down, or Reinhardt's shield just broke. Winston doesn't have a leap, for example, or Reaper just used his Wraith form. Tracer just used the recall. Like all heroes have like a weak moment that you can
Ability
definitely
tracking.
capitalize on. Yeah, and as long as you're paying attention to those things and kind of keeping that in mind, you can really find those right opportunities. Because I see people engage at the wrong times all the time. I'm sorry I keep talking over here a ton, but here's another example of things
Shut
that I
up.
see. At lower elos, you'll have a Winston. And I'm gonna keep bringing up Winston because he's a great example. You have enemy
main
Winston
confirmed.
just jumping on your backline, like straight up. Enemy Winston just jumps on your Zenyatta, and your tanks will sometimes not even turn around. You'll have your D.Va and your Orisa keep firing at the front line. You'll be lucky if one of the DPSs happens to catch the Winston and starts shooting at him. But that's about it. Poor Zenyatta is getting attacked by Winston, and there's nothing you can do about it. Dies. Then Winston just leaps out and flies away. Fast forward to maybe a higher elo. Winston jumps on the Zenyatta. Now their team knows what to do, and as soon as the Zenyatta calls out, "Winston on me," D.Va turns around, Winston turns around, and maybe like the Soldier 76 turns around. Everybody fires at the shield. Your Zenyatta puts Discord on the Winston. Winston dies immediately.
That
and
man
you're like,
melts like
He
butter.
melts.
yeah. And you're like,
melts.
and you're like, all right, we got this, dude. Like we learned how to deal with the Winston. Fast forward to a higher elo. Now you have a coordinated attacking team. Now Winston leaps, and all of your team is like, guys, Winston is sleeping. We know what's gonna happen. Discord orb guns on him. Everybody starts firing at him. But then, out of the blue, you see their enemy D.Va fly up with the Winston, and now she Matrix on top of the Winston.
You can't do anything.
Now all of your damage is getting eaten up by the Matrix. I mean, and this Winston sleep is untouched, and you're like, oh god, this is not looking good. Then out of the blue, Lucio just jumps out of the wall and speed boosts them, and then in a second, they're on top of your Zenyatta. Poor little Zenyatta is like, crap, what is happening over here? Dies in 1 second. You have Winston, D.Va shooting missiles at him, and Lucio like boops him into a corner. And
Zenyatta
then like
didn't make it.
The rest of your team just like gets caught with their pants down, and then there's a
Yeah.
pulse bomb, and everyone's dead. And
the
you're
rest
like,
of
oh,
your team's
great.
like,
That was a
what
team fight.
What the hell happened? So it's like same situation, just approached very differently, and so it goes on, right? Like now your team can do a ton of things in response as well. Maybe your team had a Lucio as well, and your team knows that this is happening, so Lucio preemptively sound barriers. So even though the enemy team puts all these resources into trying to kill your Zen lives, the bubble is down, jump and rockets are down, Lucio doesn't have speed boost anymore, and they're in the middle of your enemy team. Now you can counter them. So does that make sense? Kind of like that dynamic is like same situation, but just like the way players approach it can change the outcome like so drastically.
I feel like I just got lectured on Teamfights by Professor Andres.
All right, Appa, please take the mic before Andres gets it back.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
please take it from me. I've talked too much. I've said too much.
Man, I don't even know where to start on that one.
I mean, you can transition to the next thing about matchups and just how you skill track, like where you're at and what you noticed in some of the things that you started doing. You mentioned ult economy was a big one, but maybe something else.
So like skill tracking for my opponents is something I'm constantly working on because it's like so hard to be like accurate with it. It's really easy. Like if I'm a Mercy and they have a Mercy and like I'm close to ult, I'm probably like, hey, they're probably gonna have Valkyrie because I'm about to have it. An easy one for me to track is Reinhardt because you just like it's a direct correlation to how many fire strikes has that man landed. If it's like a decent amount, he probably has Shatter. Something I look at too whenever I'm thinking about whether or not they have ult is how they're positioning. Usually Reinhardt's will kind of give up a lot of information if they're like aggressively positioning with their shield. It's like, okay, they have shield up. They're walking at me. They're looking for me to drop that thing. Or like if I'm playing Reinhardt, it's like they're waiting for me to drop my shield so he can shatter. Then there's like mind games you can play with that, but that's kind of how I look at it right now, and it's something I'm always working on. It's something I can always improve on because I'm still learning like a lot because I mean I'm only diamond. I'm not like where I want to be.
Did you notice that
on the
lower
ladder.
tier players would telegraph that kind of information a little bit easier? Like you're like,
Yeah,
well, this
yeah.
guy hasn't been aggressive the entire game, and now he's gonna be
Yeah,
aggressive.
it's
He's
like
totally
that
gonna do this
Reinhardt
to me.
has sat in the choke with the shield up permanently. That man's
Yeah.
walking straight at our back line. He has shatter, 100%.
I've never seen a Reinhardt flank this entire game. I think he's got his ultimate, boys.
Yeah, it's like, why is there McCree on our back line? Oh, he has high noon. Cool. All right, everybody turn and kill that dude. I see McCree's like flank so much when they have just no business being where they are, looking for like the big 6-man high noon.
Oh yeah, that's a sign of a McCree in the training. Flanking McCree with high noon. I feel like at one point you just stop doing that because you just get tired of getting killed over and over again, trying to flank and maybe getting like half a kill with it.
Yeah, you just sit there on a payload map and just wait for him. You're like, I know he's just gonna do it again. Let's just sit here. And so like the team sits still, and then like you turn around and you just dart him, and just everybody's dancing in his body right before you kill him. You're like, you're not gonna do this ever again. It's about sending a message. It's not about killing you.
I played a game last night where we played against a McCree, and he did it like 4 times. He like flanked high noon, and the Roadhog just turned around every time and hooked him. And I'm like, at a certain point, after like the 3rd time, I just typed in all chat. I was like, dude, stop. Like,
you're gonna die again.
Yeah. And then he switched to Genji, and I was like, okay, now you can flank. That's okay.
Now you can actually get out of there if you need to.
I think as a support player, the most satisfying thing is when you have the flank Pharahs that come in and you just Discord headshot them and they're just toasted. You're like, yeah.
It's like, you didn't come in with your Mercy. She was smart about this. You were a little too aggressive.
You in the wrong neighborhood.
I love doing it with a Mercy too, because like the flankers will like come in and they'll be like, oh, that's an innocent little goose right there. And I'm like, nah, I can bite you. I pull out my pistol and I'm just like, dink, 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 dink. You didn't make it.
Yeah. This is super satisfying when you do that too. You feel like a badass. Like, don't mess with me, man.
All right, let's go into something a little bit more different, beyond the flexibility and self-imposed rules, maybe some advanced role tips.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that really quick, about the flexibility, because I think it's important in Overwatch. I think that people tend to gravitate to a role, right? Like people tend to like DPS or healers or tanks, or maybe they get pushed into a role because their friend group is like, hey man, we need a healer. If you want to hang, well, you're going to have to play healer. Some people get kind of like forced into those. But regardless, I think that everyone kind of like has their little niche. But in Overwatch, I truly, truly believe that it's very important that there's a variety in what you play. Like, it's okay if you are complete support, like that's what you like playing the most. If you, when you go competitive, that's what you want to play. Or you're a tank dude, you like playing Reinhardt and Winston, and those are your guys. You don't really feel comfortable with another person. Or, you know, the infamous DPS main that just likes playing Widowmaker and Genji and, you know, Hanzo occasionally or something like that. Regardless, I think everyone should have a good understanding of what every role does, and at least one good hero, hopefully 2 in every role. Even if your focus is on just one of them and that's what you prefer to play, I think it's very important, because just the way that the game is structured, you will be thrown into play with random people at all times. And you can't have always control of what everyone is going to play. And in many situations, you will be thrown into situations where you just can't heal or you can't DPS, because everyone in the team turns out to be a DPS main, and maybe some people are not as willing to switch. So what do you do in those games? You throw a tantrum and throw the game, or do you all go DPS and hope for the best? Like, you can do all those things, but your chances of winning drastically get reduced if that's the route that you choose to go. On the other hand, if you're a flexible person, if the team already has a DPS, already has healers, and you're like, you know what? I don't play a tank, but my Winston's okay. I know how to play him. It's not my preferred choice, but actually I can do a decent job with him. Or the other way around, like somebody's missing a healer, and you're like, you know what? My Lucio is decent enough. I know when to speed boost. I know when to heal. I can get my sound barrier consistently, like fast enough. Then that's good, man. Like that's just more power to you. In those games, you'll just have more flexibility, and hopefully you'll play your role the most. That's what you get to play the most. And usually people in comp, as long as you tell them, hey, this is what I'm good at, a lot of them are like, you know what, just play it. Because other people understand that too. Like they want you to play what you are best. But that's just not always the case. So flexibility, huge asset in Overwatch.
Yeah. You can go. You can go, Rob.
I was just gonna say, the counter argument to that is the one trick thing that's been going on, where people just hyper specialize in things, and that can get you very far. But the difference is how that affects how people approach you and seeing things, as they realize, like, if you pick something that's niche, like Bastion or Symmetra, for example, and you're like, oh, here we go, we got the guy that's got 60 hours on Hanzo again. You know, like, instead of having that kind of an approach, you can both combat this from the approach of having those people in your games, as well as being that person, and just not being a selfish prat about it, because you can be. Like, I had a Torb guy, this is like 4 seasons ago, a Torb player. It's like, hey, this is my second account. You guys, is okay if I play Torb here? I'm just trying to see how far I can get one tricking. And I'm just like, this would probably be something best going without said, like being said. Like, just play the game. Play what you want to play.
Like, if you would have
tell
just
people what you're doing
Torbjorn and not said that, I would have been okay with it. But you said that, so now I'm not okay with it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, guys, I'm just not gonna switch. I'm sorry. Like, this is what I want to play. It's like, well, he's like, I think that we would do better with this, and like him making the suggestions of how we can flex around his pick is like, it's like you don't get to put yourself into this venue where you get to dictate how people can also play the game if you're not going to be willing to do something like that, and also put yourself on a pedestal where you're like, because I am this, I'm now like the best at this, and so because I am this way, then you are not at the thing that you're good at anymore. You know, it's kind of like this really weird approach that people have in the mentality. And this is how I was viewing the whole one trick thing as a process. Is like, you have to both tolerate these players and realize that there is a fine line between being toxic, being abusive, and being uncommunicative and stubborn, with just somebody who is just overall like, this is how they want to enjoy the game, and they're paying just as much as you are to play Overwatch, and you just need to let them play the game. Like,
yeah, but it's like in what I'm saying, right? Like, it's all about attitude, and like, nobody will tell you how to play the game. If somebody truly wants to one trick, what can you do? Like, it's their game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's their money. It's their time. They will do whatever it is that they want. But how do you feel about it? Like you just said, you have this one trick that was very inflexible and was trying to impose his will on the rest of the enemy team. And sometimes that shit will fly. Sometimes you'll be like, you know what? Fine. I really don't want to lose this game. I'm going to play with this guy. I'm going to just do it. But half of the other time, what does your team do? Like, I really care for this dude. If you want to play Torb, then I'm going to play Hanzo. Then they usually have a terrible game. Everybody ends up losing. And it all came down to attitude, right? Like,
everybody has a bad time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's your inflexibility was the spark that exploded the powder keg. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing with like anything. Like, you can set somebody off because they had 4 bad games in a row and you picked Hanzo.
And at the end of the day, that's just people, right? Like, that's just emotions and people. But that's what I'm trying to say. This is a game where you're playing with other people. You're not playing against the computer. You're not playing with the computer. You're playing with people against people. And like, the sooner kind of like that you embrace that and you understand that, and you're like, you know what? Maybe I should try to work with other people. Like, I think that the better you'll be. And like, you'll get into games where you'll play with people that are completely inflexible. They don't want to work with you. They want you to work for them. And those games usually tend to go poorly.
Yeah, so I actually have some interesting insight on this, because my other really good friend that I play with, he's a Junkrat one trick. He's a diamond Junkrat one trick, and he has like 80 hours on exclusively Junkrat this season, like 350 hours or something total on just Junkrat. And when we get in a game, people are like, usually don't say anything, but like if there's a Pharah, they'll be like, hey, can you switch? And he usually doesn't say anything because I've yelled at him for being toxic before because he's usually like, "I'm not gonna switch. Please just shut up," because he's gotten yelled at like so many times. I usually have to like play mediator for him. I'm like, all right, look, you don't want this guy on anything other than Junkrat because his disadvantage versus Pharah is outweighed by the 350 hours he has on that Junkrat, killing like literally everybody else. Like if he got on like a soldier or something, he would be infinitely worse against this Pharah, I promise. So I have to like kind of like be the attitude for him for the other people. It's like, all right, look, he's better on this Junkrat than like any other hero. Just like let him do. Just somebody else pick a hit scan. I'll pick Ana. We'll kill the Pharah and it'll be okay. Like you can work around it and like not be a jerk about it.
That's the other thing too. Like you don't have to be the DPS, right? If your team is truly struggling against somebody that you can't deal with just because of the way that things are being played. There's a million ways you can go about it. Some of your team can change their comp so that now they're not getting destroyed by that one person, and then the Junkrat wouldn't have to counter the Pharah, for example. Maybe everybody switches to things that can survive the Pharah a lot easier, like a mobile comp, like a Diva, Tracer, Moira kind of thing, right? So you're countering the Pharah like that by making yourself harder. Or you can just be like, listen, man, if you can't really play another DPS, I can play Soldier. How about you go Diva and I'll go Steph? But again, it comes down to flexibility and like, can you find a way with your team to solve the problem with the tools that you have, with the knowledge that your players have? You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's just an attitude that everyone has to kind of strive for in this game. Because I know this sounds really corny, but it's the winning attitude. You know what I mean? You have to work with your team.
Big thumbs up.
Yeah,
that's a winner's face if I saw one.
Jiggity jolly, guys.
This is actually how I started playing Lucio. Whenever I started playing, I was like, man, play Lucio. He seems like so boring. Just like this was before he got changed. Just sits there and like just line of sights everybody and scoots around a little bit. I played a lot of Ana and Zenyatta when I started playing, but I was having a lot of problems in my games, just like getting just dumpstered by these like Tracers and Genjis that were just better than me. So that's when I started switching to Lucio. It's like to kind of deal with that. I was like, okay, I can just boop them off me and then speed boost away and run into the sunset and they can't get me. So like I was flexible within my role. That's how I started getting a lot better at Lucio. It's just out of necessity because I was dying so much. And then whenever there's like two supports that are just in a game, I'll usually just kind of be forced to fill in main tank because not a lot of people like playing main tank. It's pretty boring. You just hold up your shield and press W. So that's how I started playing like a little Reinhardt to fill. And I kind of got bored with Reinhardt, so I picked up Orisa because she's a little more fun for me. So those are kind of the two roles that I really fill. I'm pretty mediocre at DPS, but I just kind of learned different heroes out of necessity because I try and be flexible. I really prefer support, and like if there's two people in the game that are supporting, like, hey, is there any chance I could support? Because I'm like, the percentages we'll get from me being on support as opposed to something else is like probably higher than me just filling. Yeah. If you guys are like reasonable at all at like a main tank. And if they say like, no, I can only do support, I'll be like, all right, I guess I'm the Ryan main for this game.
And it takes time to build that, right? Like it's an investment you have to do in yourself, right? Like at first, the heroes that you learn at first are the ones that you like the most, your favorite ones, obviously. Those are the easiest ones because you want to play them all the time. But maybe for the other roles, it really is kind of like up to you to be like, okay, I don't know how to tank at all. I should really take my time like learning at least one of the tanks, whether Winston or Diva or Reinhardt, and like at least get myself decent enough, like diamond level Winston, for example. and then
Yeah.
that's in your arsenal, and like it just makes you a more well-rounded player, and it just takes time and practice. Like I said, it's kind of like an investment into your Overwatch gaming career, like learning these heroes.
Yeah, and going back to the like the one trick kind of discussion, somebody you've had on the show before, like PvP, I think he has 4 or 5 accounts in top 500 right now, which is
Hmm.
completely insane.
Yeah, it is
But he's
insane.
he's he's like one of the best Junkrats in the world. And he doesn't even play Junkrat all the time. Like if his team
His
needs something
Pharah
else,
is disgusting.
Hmm.
yeah, if his
Like,
team needs something else, he'll just be
gross.
like, okay, I guess I'll play Diva, whatever, that's fine.
And once you get into the upper echelon, like Overwatch League, you have to. Like
Yeah.
all of these guys know multiple heroes at like a super, super high level. And the guys that don't are just not going to get picked up, you know what I mean? And it's just gonna get more and more like that. And hopefully that's also like over time, like an attitude that trickles down to the ladder and stuff.
Mhm.
Because I do think that the more flexible you are, the more heroes you have in your arsenal in diverse roles, the more well-rounded you'll be as a player. And like learning how a tank moves also helps you as a DPS and likewise as a support, because then you know how your tanks like moving. You know what they will be trying to do because you have put yourself in that situation before, so you can read your team a little bit better. And to close things off, because we are going a little bit long over here, and I just want to leave you guys with a little bit of knowledge that I've been really thinking about lately. It's more of an attitude thing as well. And notice that we haven't discussed aim or any mechanicals thing at all today, because yeah, that is a huge part of the game. But honestly, that comes more with time and practice, and you sitting down, kind of like thoughtfully thinking about how you move your mouse and just doing it for a prolonged period of time. Um, but but Overwatch is so much more than that. Like there's so much strategy behind it, and there's so much more to this game than just like shooting and aiming. Sure, that is one part, and the mechanical skill will help you capitalize on all this like strategy knowledge that you have. But Overwatch at the end of the day is a very strategic game, and it's like a rock paper and scissor kind of thing, and you need to be able to like recognize all those things. But the last
Yeah.
thing, sorry, no, you wanted to say something because I'm gonna close things off.
Yeah, so if we were going to talk about like mechanics and stuff, we would have had somebody else on besides me because like
Yeah.
I'm only like a guy who just got the diamond. But I think like I reached out to Rob and Andres and I was like, hey, I just hit diamond. I'm thinking about transitioning over to Overwatch. I don't know if you guys would want to like do a show where kind of talk about the similarities between like in mentality, and like that's kind of where it spawned from. Is like it's a little bit easier for me to improve because I am a professional Hearthstone player, and like I have like the strategic mind for everything. Like that's kind of where I'm improving a lot faster. My mechanics still need to get better. It's a little bit easier for me because I play support. But I just wanted to go over like just these last few bullet points real quick,
Yep.
just read over them.
Go for it.
And this is what helped me improve in Hearthstone like rapidly. Like so the first one is if you lose a game, you should look back on the game as if the loss was your fault. Like there's always something you can improve, like all the time. Just look back and be like, what did I screw up? Because you didn't play perfect, I guarantee you. The next one is just don't be afraid to admit that people are better than you. Like embrace it and learn from them. Like one of the best learning experiences I had was we had a GM Smurf in one of our games who's playing Tracer, and I was on I think Lucio, and she just like ran at me and one clipped me every single time. And like I learned where I could position better to where she couldn't get to me, and I've started like improving my positioning against divers that way.
Mm-hmm.
So like a lot of it is just like letting go of your hubris as a gamer and being like, okay, I'm not the best in the world at like whatever I'm doing. I'm probably not even like all that fantastic, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So what could I be improving? It's just like letting go of any ego you might possibly have, and then just like being open and receptive to advice and change, because there's something you can learn from everybody.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, that's what I wanted to say to close things off, because I think it's all about your attitude. Like the first step of learning and improving at anything, especially in this game, is let go of your ego. Admit that there's other people out there better than you. And I see this happening all the time in the ladder, where maybe a person is getting killed, or, Zenyatta is getting dove in the back line, and like their first instinct will be to start calling their team out and being like, oh, you guys are terrible. You guys are not paying attention to me. Or they might be not losing the team fight, and like their first reaction is, oh, our DPS suck. These guys are terrible. Like, this is why we're losing. Like, I just see this attitude of blame. Like, everybody just wants to blame somebody else so fast. And I don't know.
Responsibility deflection.
Yeah. I think that around the Asian region, they're a little bit better about this, where they don't blame so much their teammates and stuff, but they're more introspective about their own play, and they're more about how can I do better in this team to like help out. But over here in the Western side, I feel like there's still a lot of that individualistic attitude, like the big ego of, I'm gonna carry this team, I'm gonna bring home the win, and if we're not winning, it's not my fault. It's probably the rest of my team that is not allowing me to win. And that even extends to the enemy team, right? Like, it trivializes the abilities of the enemy team. Like, maybe the enemy team actually does have a really good tracer that is destroying you, or maybe their Lucio and Winston are like doing this amazing duo that is completely like countering your team, and it's not exactly anyone's fault. They're honestly just doing really good against you. But everyone, like, nobody will ever be like, wow, their Lucio is really good, or like, oh wow, their blah blah is really good. They'll be like, no, you guys suck. I can't believe you guys are getting killed by this guy.
Yeah, if I'm getting destroyed by somebody who's really good, I usually type in all chat, what's your actual SR? Why are you here? Another thing is, like, if I'm playing with like a McCree over the course of a game who has like 0% accuracy, or like a Reinhardt who just actually hasn't held up a shield, I just won't blame them. I'll just be like, okay, we're gonna take this L, but what could I do differently here to like maybe die less, or like maybe help the team a little more? Like, even if we're gonna lose, like, what could I do in this situation a little better?
Yep.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
I think that's gonna do it. But I just wanted to thank Appa for coming back on the show. It does seem a little odd that we do have somebody that's not a huge big guest, and I'm not quite sure how you guys are gonna respond to this, but we thought it was a good idea. And please don't direct any hate towards Appa, because it was our idea. We really thought this was a good thing for you guys, and it may not be as popular with some of the upper echelon players, but I think it's something valuable to the mass. And to me personally, this is helpful because I had coaching session this week on Zenyatta and realized how far I've dipped in my ability and awareness and whatnot. And even moments where the coach would highlight that I was being a little toxic and blaming other people. So the mentality thing is something that I've really struggled with coming back, because I had thought that I had retained my ability to, do certain things. And then when certain things weren't falling in place, I thought it was my team rather than my ability, because I was just, losing. So again, mentality is huge. It does affect what you can do in the game, and also how long you can play the game a lot of times. And Appa's got a lot of that on lock, because he was a top contender in Hearthstone tournaments such as DreamHack, Austin in Texas, and I believe you went to DreamHack Atlanta too, right, for Hearthstone?
Yeah, I went to Austin twice, and then Atlanta, and then I played in the prelim tournament, which was like 11 rounds or something in summer 2016.
You've gotten top 16 finishes quite a bit. If
I was
correctly, right?
Yeah, I was ranked top 100 in the world, top 20 in the US, like 2 or 3 times for Hearthstone.
We didn't really hit on that as much in the opening show, so I want to make sure people
open
realize
with that, man.
That's where you need to open off. You're doing it wrong.
Oh, gosh.
I'm a diamond player. I don't know. No. But anyways, to close out the show, if you guys want to support us on Omnic Lab, the best way to do it is through iTunes. Actually, you can go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star iTunes review there, and we'll read your name on the show. We got 2 people taking advantage of helping us out for free. Beyond just listening to the show is Johnny Too Smart and Cool Peeps. You guys are some cool peeps. Thanks for leaving us some reviews. It was encouraging listening to your reviews, and recommendations and feedback. We really appreciate that. The next best way that you can listen to the show and support us is also on Patreon. We had a couple new people joining onto the Patreon squad, as well as some sponsors that hit the highest tier level of donations for the show, helping us out, pay off our bills for BlizzCon, and hopefully get set up to do it again next year, as well as upgrade some of our equipment. We got a couple of people reaching out in the back, but we won't bore you with those things. But we do want to say that this is the best way you can support us, and it has been a continuing not struggle. I don't know what else the word would be, Andres, to say. Maybe consistency is hard when people are not just like looking at this like a charity case. This is like actual support, guys. This is not like we're a charity taking money as a not-for-profit. We're not really a for-profit. We're doing this because we want to, but your contributions and your support for the show is directly like helping us. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than say this every week, but it's like, it's amazing that you guys are able to do what you do with your finances so that you can support us, because we wouldn't be where we are today without you. And
yeah, it's really means a lot to us.
Amazing.
That those people choose to support us in this way, because not only keeps us very motivated to keep doing the show, knowing that you guys like it this much to be able to financially support us, but also has allowed us to keep exploring it was a hobby for us, and now it's becoming kind of like a small part-time job of, you know, constantly coming out with the content, meeting all these really cool people in the community, allowing us to do things like going to BlizzCon, build small podcasting setups like we have right now, and it's kind of like all coming together very slowly. But it's been like a year and a half since we've been podcasting, and like thanks to you guys, like Rob and I have had this whole new world open up to us, and we're really grateful for it. You guys are like truly the authors of that.
Dream fulfillment.
Yeah.
Like, you guys have literally helped us fulfill some of our own personal dreams. Like, even just having the conversation face to face with people like Scott and Patrick at BlizzCon was just something I didn't ever think would ever happen, period.
Yeah, or meeting you guys at BlizzCon, like that was super amazing. Just having a group of people that was so open and embracing and just wanted to, you know, be friends and stuff. So we really appreciate all of that. And hopefully, yeah, we can have another huge year where we can do more events, get to meet more of you guys, increase the quality of the show, get even more guests in here. You know, keep going, keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Especially since we don't have sponsors, TM, yet. Like, you guys are the sponsors. Like, you help us do it. So we got to gush a little bit since we don't have ad revenue. We don't have ad space in the show. You're the ad space, so thank you. So without further gushing, let's talk about those that are on the team. We got Krista Playa, Ginger Sasquatch, Good Apollo, Great Root Bear, Lysome, Magic, Matt R, Not Muad'Dib, Ricky Ticky, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Top Score Solutions, change your name, Ben, I got you, man, and Tragic Zach. Also with some new people on the list, we got a new Diamond patron, Never Clutch, which I actually got a chance to play with him in ranked this week. We lost a lot of games, but we learned a little bit about ourselves and did some soul searching together, so it was so fun. And then we also got a new patron at the mid tier, which is Raphael C. Thank you guys so much for your support, and hopefully I didn't butcher your names too badly. If you guys want to find this show anywhere else, the best way to do it is go to the website omniclab.com, and you can go to omniclab.com/links and find anything else you want. That's merch, that's Patreon, that's that's the Discord where the community is, where people are grouping up, talking Overwatch, trying to find the game nights. And also you can find our Twitter and Facebook links there as well at Omnic Lab. That's going to do it for episode 83. Let's kick it over to our guest. Appa, where can people find you, my man?
Mostly on Twitter. I'm on Twitter all the time. It's at Appa_HS. I used to stream on Twitch, but my PC is being really weird right now and keeps crashing. So I need to figure out what's going on. But my Twitch is AppaHS, no underscore. I'll probably start streaming a little bit Overwatch and try probably next season. Yeah. Probably stream some.
Just remember, you have to type out every word, no underscore afterwards. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Stream my journey up to Masters. Yeah. That's where you can find me on Twitter and Twitch. Yeah.
Sweet. Andres, what about you?
If you want to personally find me, you can find me over on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And like I said at the top of the show, make sure to follow and check out the Overwatch League recap, or the OWL recap for short. We have a Twitter, we have a website, we are on iTunes. Check all of that. That's kind of like our newest project. We're getting a lot of stuff together for the holidays, but we're starting really strong next year, especially once the actual league starts. So stay tuned for that.
If you want to find me, I'm on Twitter and Twitter and Instagram with the tag NotRob. I'm on Twitch at NotRobMay for any Hearthstone related content you might be interested in. In about 2 weeks from today, my time, I should have brand new high-speed internet. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, we can do some streaming for Overwatch and not worry about my ping too much. Hopefully, we'll be dropping 200 ping down to 80 and make it at least playable on my end. You can also find my Hearthstone podcast called Velen's Chosen at velenschosen.com. We will be also having a guest on tomorrow, Bodicus from Coin Concede, Andres and Appa's alma mater of podcasting. And he'll be on there helping us talk some strats and having some fun. I will also be doing a little Night Before Christmas Hearthstone edition Kobolds and Catacombs tomorrow. I have yet to write it, so hopefully I'll have that ready to go for tomorrow morning. But I'll see you guys there. And also my personal project is called conceptcraft.libsyn.com. If you want to find that, you can head over there and just listen to me spitball random things, creators and Destiny, and I'll probably go on a rant about how Destiny screwed me up in Overwatch at one point, but we'll see. But thank you guys for tuning in to episode 83 on ladder climbing. We hope that you guys learned something this week that you can go and apply with your friends or your solo queue environment and enjoy it. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. And man, let me tell you, watch out for them Yetis. Those suckers are dangerous. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. Radioactive Trill House. Yeah, dude. Trill, what's up? Trill took me out for coffee once when he was in Atlanta. Actually, I kind of missed that coffee shop. It was a great little place. Kind of want some now. Thanks everyone else. Bob, as always, thanks for stopping by. Bio, thanks so much for the 2-month subscription. You are awesome.
I have nothing
always supporting.
You. The rest, you must learn for yourself.
Andrew's Living, what's up, dude? Thanks for coming. 8-Man, is that you, Justin? If that's not you, what's up? If it's you, what's up too?
Drunken Monk came in here just to spam Appa.